Open system.
I will just start just to be sure. Okay.
I don't know why it's not letting me. I've got all these crazy files up. Can I email them to you real quick?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yep.
It's blocking me out for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know why. But I really want to show them. Oops. Okay, so I sent them to you.
Mhm.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll just ask you to, I'll just queue it up and say, can you please show the first video? Does that work?
Yeah, yeah. You emailed them, right?
Yeah, I just sent them.
Who the hell is that?
Sorry. Technology. Is the lighting okay? Is my hair sexy? How are we feeling?
Oh, yes, very much. Hold on.
Oh, actually, I wanted to ask also one technical question. Can you please open video settings on your bottom left, video settings, and check if your video is HD quality?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Video settings. HD, you want HD?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. It will be a little bit better. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually we start at 7, we are letting people in, and start at 5 minutes, something like this.
And Zeno,
Can
you
you-
will introduce me? Or,
If you like, I can introduce you. If you like, you can just go ahead. It depends on your preference as well.
well, yeah, I mean, maybe just say, here's our guest speaker, Cameron, and then I'll go.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. We missed a little bit. Yeah.
Did I freeze?
I'm here.
Am I cutting out or are you guys cutting out? I can't tell.
I guess you.
Okay. Wait, can you see my screen?
Yes.
You
Can
see
you
the video?
turn? Do we need to hear the video?
Yeah.
Okay, then you need, when you are starting the video, you need to press the button in order to others will hear the audio from the video.
What button?
No, you can stop sharing this video, and when you again start share screen, you can sign it to share sound as well on bottom left.
Ah, okay, got it.
Yeah, and we will otherwise we can't hear.
All right, let's try number 2.
We can't hear the sound actually.
You can't hear?
No.
So it is preventing me from sharing my entire screen. I can only share one tab. Anton, I'm forwarding you this email.
To me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's already 7. So I'm gonna admit everybody and disable.
Can you send in the chat just video, please?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
When
Tell
we
me
will
how
need
to
this
watch
video
me.
only once?
There are 2 videos.
Yeah. I'll just ask for the first video at the beginning and then the last video at the end.
Okay.
Will definitely help if we can.
I will just give a couple of minutes so more people can have time to join in. Meanwhile, I would like to say that if you guys can turn on your cameras, that would be awesome, because it's much nicer to look at you than at the black screen.
Let's try the sound out.
Uh-huh.
Hey, you know this guy? This guy's from the US Open.
Perfect.
Okay, it's nice.
Nice. Cameron, how do you say your last name? By the way, I forgot to ask.
Hughes.
Hughes. Okay, cool. Okay, I guess maybe you can start and people can keep joining in all the while. So hello everybody to a new coaching session. I would like to introduce our coach for tonight, Cameron Hughes, who is gonna tell us all about the power of cheer. And very nice sentence here. I see we posted already. He says, "I hope that my story will inspire you to cheer a little louder, smile a little wider, and dance a little crazier." So this is super exciting, and we're all looking forward to it. So I will give the stage to you now.
We're ready. We're good. We're going. January 8th, 1994. I don't know where you guys were, but I was in Ottawa, Canada, my hometown. I'm from Ottawa. I'm from Canada. I was taking some time off from my university because I wasn't really focused. That might surprise you with the backdrop here. I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. I was a little lost. I was nervous. I was scared. The Ottawa Senators hockey team, it's an NHL hockey team, part of a big league with 30 different teams, was a new team in the league. They were a horrible team. They weren't winning. It was the middle of winter. It was minus 300 out. And there I am. My friend calls me and says, "Hey, do you want to come to the game?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I needed some energy in my life. I needed a boost. So I go to the hockey game with my friend. And all of us, we go to events to participate in something. We go to a sporting event to cheer on our favorite player or our favorite team. And ultimately, I believe we go to be connected to a community that's bigger than us, that gives us something to feel part of, to feel connected to. So that night, it's minus 300 out, minus 20 feet of snow, but Canadians still go to the game, right? So I go to the event. It's the first part of the game. No one is cheering. There is no excitement. There's no energy. It's awful. Second period of the game, the same thing. Our team is losing. My friend Elliot, who got me tickets to the game, got me tickets from his father. We're sitting in the middle of the arena, 10,000 people. And I was upset. And he looks at me and he goes, "Whatever you're thinking of doing, please don't." He could tell something was brewing inside of me. You know, that moment where you're like, somebody needs to do something. You're at an event, you're at a concert, you're at a show, you're at your cousin Bill's wedding or something, whatever it might be. You're like, someone needs to be that spark. And 8 minutes to go in the game. We're losing. No one's cheering. No excitement. The song "We Are Family" comes on. And I go, this is it. I'm sober, I promise you on my life. I get up on my seat, I stand up on my chair, and I start to dance like a lunatic. And the entire crowd is looking at me like, do we call the police? Do we get a medical help? What do we do? That moment in our lives where we decide just to go for it, to get up, to be ourselves, to stop asking for permission on the right or the left, and we go from here. That's what I did. I had no choice. So I kept dancing and I kept going crazy. And the crowd's looking at me like this. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. So they start clapping with me. And 10,000 people start clapping. They're all like, what's going on over there? Next thing I know, there's a buzz in the arena. That moment, finally, you just go for it, right? And change the energy. Sit back down in my seat. My friend Elliot is long gone. We haven't talked in 28 years. I know, sad. I'm sitting there thinking, what did I just do? What just happened? And I realized I just wanted to get the crowd going. I wanted them to have a little fun. And there's a buzz in the arena. When you do something, when you have that idea and it works and you're like, oh, interesting. But you're also like, wait a minute, what do I do now? Because all I wanted to do in that moment was run for my life. I couldn't believe I'd taken this risk, this chance, and put myself out there. And the reason I've had this accidental career performing, at a few sporting events, there's another 150 jerseys in this room, in 11 countries, in 40 different states, in 9 Canadian provinces, for over 30 million people around the world. And I've only been hospitalized 8 times. It's not because I got up that first time. It's what we do with that idea. Because the next whistle blew, the play stops, and 10,000 people turn around and look at me and they're like, come on, Big Red, let's keep dancing. I had no choice. So I get up from my seat. I'm in my seat and I go to the aisle now in the stadium and I start to dance up and down the crowd. And they're all looking at me like, let's go, let's go. They bought into the idea of what I was selling, which was fun, energy, excitement, and let's just collectively enjoy this experience. Enjoy this experience. The song ends and 10,000 people stood up and gave me a standing ovation. It was 28 years ago and I can still feel it. That moment I decided just to go for it. I go back to my seat. There's a representative from the team there. I thought they were going to like taser me and kick me out or something. But nope, they just wanted my phone number to ask me to come back and to get the crowd going at the rest of the games. I was like, well, who needs university for that, right? So I was like, cool. I go back home and the next day my dad says, what did you do last night? I was like, not much. And the front page of our newspaper, it says, dancing redhead bandit steals the show at Senators game. And that moment, that thinking about it, looking at that moment is when I first discovered the power of cheer. When you stop looking for permission here, and it comes from here. And that moment, that night, that experience ignited a spark in me that's changed my life. I was finally just me. And since then, I've performed at those 1,500 events, bringing laughs, smiles, cheer, fun. And as we know, as entrepreneurs, when you do something that works, you realize all the other things that you're able to do now. And the success comes, in my opinion, from staying in that lane of what the truth is behind that main message that you're getting out there. So last weekend, I was fortunate enough, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, Monday, I got a phone call and it was Roger Federer's agent. And it was a Monday and he said, do you want to come to London and perform at Roger Federer's charity event? Last event. And I was like, let me think about that. Of course, I was 11 hours away by plane, but I just said yes to that opportunity. And one of my biggest messages in life is show up because you never know. And if you guys could show the little video from what happened that night to give an idea of what I do. Here we go.
Hey, you know this guy's from the US Open. Taking the shirts out.
Up on the big screen is a gentleman, as they rightly say, from the US Open, who gets them involved. The shirt will be coming off. That'll do. What an atmosphere.
He has to go naked at the end. He has to.
They've flown him in specially from the US Open, and you can see the crowd responding. He's had 11 RF shirts on. And it's vintage RF t-shirt right at the end.
So I go to the games, I wait for the right moment. Camera comes on me, I get up and I rip it open and I go, let's go, let's have a party. And I get the fans out of their seat, laughing, smiling. And when you're lucky, you get the guest of honor, Roger Federer, talking about you. In a million years, I could never have scripted a better scenario where he and Rafa were talking about me. But that's the joy of part of what I do. Live experiences, so the spontaneous of it. You just never know what's going to happen when you're at a live event. So for 28 years, I've been showing up at these different events, from the Olympics to the US Open to rugby matches in Europe, Singapore, tennis, and kind of everything in between. I've done the rodeo, I've done minor league games. I've done it all, which has made my career and my experiences and the people I've been fortunate enough to meet and connect with that much more exciting, because I didn't just stay in one lane of, I'm just going to do one sport. I decided to do it all. So I started off as being known as the dancing guy. I was the dancing guy in my hometown. Obviously, that's why I've been single this whole time. Who wants to call themselves the dancing guy, right? Hey, look, mom, I'm dating the dancing guy. And when I had that idea of connecting with fans, it ultimately came down to this. What was the experience that I was creating for people? And I look back in my career, I realized I used to be so excited. I'd show up and be like, hey, you got to hire me. I'm crazy. I'm fun. I'm a bad dancer. And I realized eventually, it took me a long time to realize to frame it differently. What experience can I provide your franchise, your organization, whatever that might be? So I started to ask better questions and say, is there an event that you have coming up that you need a little extra energy? Is there an event coming up that you want to surprise your fans and do something different? And when I started to frame the question of what I was offering differently, my career took off, because it wasn't about me. It was about what I was offering, which is energy, laughs, spontaneous human connection. And I really believe that if they had introduced me at any games, it wouldn't work as well. So it's that message that I've really, really stuck to and tried for the last 28 years to stick to that philosophy of that spontaneous connection, that, wow, this is going to happen. And let's give fans, and in all of your cases, and you all have a different story of what you're doing and what you're putting out there, but our customers, our fans, something different. And ultimately, you can have a game tonight in any city, and without me, without all that stuff. But what are we doing to give our fans, our customers, that extra something? Because it's not about the tweet of the game or the Facebook post or the picture. It's about what we're making people feel. And at every game I go to, I'm trying to make people come alive, make them feel something special, and give them more. When I started off in Ottawa, I was known as the dancing guy. And I decided if it could work in my hometown of Ottawa, the capital of Canada, a beautiful city, if you ever get a chance, please come. I'll call the Prime Minister and I'll get you a pass, and I'll get it all set up. Don't worry. When you have an idea and you're like, will this work in other ways? And you're like, how do I get it out there? It's challenging, right? So for me, back in the day, I used to send VHS copies, VHS. I would mail them to people. And you know what happened? Nobody would open them Nobody, because they're like, we don't have the time. So I decided to just show up at different venues early in my career to show them what I could offer people, to give them that experience. And then they can make a decision if they wanted to hire me, bring me in, work with me. And it was scary. Let me tell you, being an entrepreneur, being a creative person, being an entertainer that puts himself, herself out there without that safety net, especially when you get up in front of 15,000 fans and they're looking straight at you and you don't have a costume on. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking, no matter what level we do it in, right? So I would come to all these events. I'd make my own t-shirts. My big thing is I rip open that party shirt. Hold on, let me show you. I didn't want to start with the goal today. I didn't want to get people too excited, but I rip open the party shirt and have all these t-shirts on. And below is the t-shirts from the team. It didn't used to be though. It used to be my dancing guy shirts. And then teams would say, wait a minute, if you're going to give us all this exposure of getting the crowd going, we want you to wear our t-shirt, our jersey, so our fans feel part of that with the brand. So every game I get about 100 to 150 t-shirts. I rip them off, I throw them out, I twirl them in the crowd, and they leave with something, not just the memory of connecting in that moment, but that sweaty t-shirt that they can wear and do whatever they want with. So I started to show up in different cities. And I had some success. I had some absolute failures, but it was always leading to something, I was hoping. So I want to share a little story. I went back to university in between, trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. I just came back from my university homecoming, and I want to share a story about that later. But I decided to take a chance, a big chance. And we've all heard of Hollywood. And if you're going to go big and try to make it, you go to Hollywood. So I went down there during my spring break to see if I could show up and maybe they'd hire me so I could chase my dream. I went to an LA Lakers game. I had these t-shirts called the Dancing Guy Tour. I got up at the game. I went crazy. The Laker girls were there. All the celebrities were there. They're all looking at me like, this guy's insane, but okay, let's have some fun, right? Once they pick up on it, they're like, all right. Nothing happened after that game. I was hoping to get discovered. The next night, I brought a friend of mine with me. He was a guy I went to high school with. I remember being in high school, watching this guy on stage, and he inspired me. He went on to become an actor, a Broadway actor, a director, and he came with me to the game because something wasn't clicking for me. And I realized I needed to read the crowd more. I needed to read the room. I needed to ultimately understand what the customers and the fans wanted and when and how to deliver it to them. I was just so excited. I didn't have any calm about it. So we started to give me insights and wait for the crowd to go down and then bring them up, wait for the high and then keep them high. So I started to go and I was killing it. The fans were going wild. Kids were chasing me, wanting t-shirts. After the game, 3 people from the hockey team came up to me and said, we'd want to hire you and bring you back. And I'm like, show me the money. Let's go. The next day, final game, Anaheim Mighty Ducks. It's a hockey team in California, at the time owned by Walt Disney, the biggest entertainment company in the world. And I'm like, if there's ever going to be a shot at making it and doing something special, this is it. So I go down there. I'm by myself. I'm obviously very nervous. What's going to happen? I flew 3,000 miles to put myself out there because they wouldn't open this. How far are you willing to go to get someone to open this and to see what you have to offer? I was like, I've got nothing to lose. So I go down there. I get up. Crowd looks at me. No, not buying what I was selling. Energy, fun, not into it. I kept going. It's so hard when you put yourself out there and there's like, nope, deep breath, regroup. All right, wait for the big play, wait for it to be quieter. Boom. Next thing I know, I have 18,000 people going absolutely crazy. There's 5 minutes left. There's a timeout. I'm at the lower bowl of the arena in the stadium. I'm sitting like this. I'm dripping in sweat. All I need is a glass of water. Next thing I know, I see this guy walk down the stairs in a suit, comes down and he taps me on the shoulder. He says, I'd like to have a word with you. And 18,000 people were convinced I was getting kicked out. So as I turn around and walk up the stairs to follow this gentleman, wherever you are, I want to see your hands up, everyone, hands up, everyone, hands up. There we go. 18,000 people do this. Everyone clap with me. Everyone, guys, clap with me. Come on, here we go. Come on, you got it. Come on. I get to the top of the stairs. The guy said to me, and 18,000 people were cheering me on, going, thanks for the fun tonight. See you later. I get to the top of the stairs and the gentleman says, what's that all about? What are you doing? And I said, I'm just trying to have some fun, get the crowd going. And he's got his assistants beside him. And there's no video cameras, right? Like I'm not videoing this moment, which would have been fun. And he says, a lot of people think what you're doing here is great, but the Disney Corporation would like you to stop. So in my Canadian humor, sarcasm, I said, what? Mickey and Minnie were upset I'm acting a little goofy? And he goes like this. He grabs two California police officers. I show them my ticket. They escort me back to my seat. Anaheim scores a goal a few seconds later. I get on my seat, 20,000 people start twirling my last t-shirt and they win. And that clip, that very clip was on ESPN Sports Center, shown around the world as #3 highlight of the week. My friends back home are like, is Cameron okay? Is he okay? Should we send help? I was more than okay. I sit back down on my seat and I get a tap on the shoulder. And maybe you've had that tap, or maybe you're working towards that tap, whatever story you have as a business leader, an entrepreneur. I get a tap on the shoulder. I turn around and this guy says, hi, my name's Chris. I saw you at the game on Friday night, the Lakers game. I'm like, okay. And I saw you last night at the LA Kings game. I'm like, okay, a little creepy, right? And here we are. And I was like, okay, where's this going? I'm like, he hands me his business card. He says, I work for Washington Sports and Entertainment. I work with the NHL team and the NBA team, two very big franchises. And I would like to hire you. And I'm like, well, you'll have to call my agent. I'm very busy. That's not what I said. I said, of course, you know. A couple of weeks later, my friends, there I was, this kid from Canada trying to chase a dream, performing in Washington, performing in the United States for the very first time. I had to go to Los Angeles, to Hollywood to get there. And I learned at that very age and stage that you never know who's watching you, who's seeing what you're doing from a business point of view, from a creative point of view. And to be able to grasp that you just never know how that's going to connect. And that moment there shaped it for me, because I realized there's so many different people, these different organizations and sports teams. You never know where that opportunity is going to come from. So from there, I got a booking agent who booked me at different sporting events around the world, from minor league games to major league games to the Olympics to places in between. And I've been super, super fortunate to go to these events, to meet with fans, athletes, people, and connect. It's led to a lot of different cool opportunities, including hosting my own TV show, being able to speak at companies, for schools, for kids, being the voice of several brands. And recently I finished a book called King of Cheer. Stories of showing up, getting up, and never giving up from the world's most electrifying crowd igniter. And my dear friend, Ariane, has a quote in the book, because she once took me to, we went together to a US Open tennis match. I have a little story about the US Open. Any tennis fans in the room? Raise your hand, maybe, but you've all heard of it. I think that, for today, what I wanted to do now is that's sort of the bigger picture of my story of how it went from kind of a joke to a dare to living this crazy dream. And the way my book was written was that beginning story to being able to perform at all these events. One thing I want to share, though, is, and I really think it's important, because it's the heart, right? And it's always challenging because I want to know your stories, because I think every one of us has a story and something we can take from it, right? Something we can learn from it. And then when we say hi, we realize like it's not, we're similar in so many ways of what we're trying to put out there. And for me, one thing I've always looked back on is the why. You know, when I was in high school, I wanted to make the sports team, you know, be on the team, have that jersey on, maybe I'd get a date. And I tried out for the team, basketball team in grade 9. I didn't make it. Grade 10, didn't make it. I even shaved my legs that year. Not very smart, right, guys? And then grade 11 was the final year. I was like, I really want to make the team. And in that same moment, one day my mother called my sister and I and said my parents were divorced. And she asked us to come home because she wanted to talk to us early from school. We thought maybe we're getting that trip to Disney or, you know, that golden retriever puppy or something. And she sits us down and she tells us that she'd been diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. And this was long before the awareness and the runs and the charities and the way we've been able to, you know, collectively support these different causes. And I didn't understand it. My mother didn't understand it, but she said these words to me. So I'm going to beat this. Don't you guys worry. And when that happens, you're like, you know, all you want to do is fight for your mom. You want to be her biggest cheerleader because she was my biggest cheerleader. And so I want to go make the team. So I go back to school. I'm trying to live my best life and I try to make the team. I go to look at the name on my list, see if my name's on the list. 3rd year, not such a great athlete after all. So get home. My mother says these words to me and then have guided me since then. She says, are you passionate about the team? Yep. Are you passionate about your friends? Yeah. Are you passionate about your school? Yeah. Well, maybe there's other ways you can contribute to the team. And I'm like 16, right? I didn't understand what that meant. Okay. I listened. It's my mom, right? You listen. We all have a story of who inspires us and who guides us and who, you know, who fuels us ultimately. So I kept going back to school. A couple months later, my mother's illness got worse and she passed away from breast cancer. And it was her 30th anniversary not too long ago. And I remember writing a post about it because I've always talked about it because my mom was such a great connector. She was all heart, and I've tried to be all heart in my life. Tried. It's not always easy, you know, we know that. I've tried to put myself out there, and she was a nurse, she was a teacher, but she was all about community and bringing people together. So that, not her story, but those messages has become my fuel of wanting to connect with people, put a smile on your face, maybe make your day a little bit better, maybe make mine a little bit better. And I'll share a story and try not to get too emotional, but I'm going to share it. Last week, I spoke at a school in Quebec in Canada, outside of Montreal. And at the last, there was about 300 students. And I did a little Q&A at the end. And the last question this young girl said to me, how have you gone on your whole career without your biggest cheerleader by your side? Right? This little girl asked, she was at the back of the row. I took a deep breath. I answered. I said, thank you for the tear today, because if you can have a tear, a laugh, and think you've had a great day. I said, can you come up at the end? She came up. I said, I want to give you my book. She's a young girl, comes up. She turns her back to me. She holds me. She just started crying. She just needed someone because the next day was the 3rd anniversary of her mother passing. And the fact that I was able to share that story with her and her that story with me, she had a really tough weekend. I messaged her yesterday to say, hi, I hope you're doing well. And that ultimately is behind everything I've done. It's about the human connection, making people smile, think, laugh, and bring them that cheer. So for 28 years, I started off with the sports, and it's allowed me to do lots of different things. And my friends and mentors and people that have helped me have always tried to say, stop trying to do too much. I used to get stuck trying to think I could do all these things. But when I focused it on being the guy that could bring the cheer, all these other things happened that were more natural. I wasn't trying to do something that didn't make sense. I've got a couple little show and tell things here, then we can do a fun little Q&A. Does that sound good? It's breakfast where I am, by the way. I'm in British Columbia. So we'll do a tequila shot after, don't worry. So US Open tennis. How many people here have had an idea? They're so convinced it's going to work. They just need that shot. right? So the United States Open, the biggest tennis tournament in the world, happens every September, end of August, September in New York City. And I sent them my promo reel, and they wanted to do something different. They just didn't know. And that's the other side of the equation, is when you work with people who want what you're quote unquote selling, but they just not sure how it works. And I've learned how to try to finagle that. So the US Open wanted to do something, but when I sent them my video, my tape, their answer was, not a chance. We're not bringing you in to perform at our event. And when you have that idea, you're so convinced it's going to work. You get a no, and you're like, well, what do you do? You accept the no, or do you figure out another way? So I messaged them. I said I was going to be in New York City. Might have been a little bit of a fib. I said, why don't you just give me one shot to come and perform at your event? And they said, okay, we'll give you one shot. So it's Thursday night, 25,000 people. My dear friends from New York came, including my dear friend who's on here, Ariane, and they came to be my cheerleaders because I was scared out of my mind, okay? On my way there, I spent the best $10 of my life, and I'll show you what t-shirt it was. So I get up, start dancing, performing. I take off a pullover, I rip it open. I have this crazy pink shirt. And then I get to the bottom of the stairs and I rip open 25,000 people in New York to this. And I love New York shirt. And the place went absolutely wild. I realized for 10 bucks, I could get that quick pop. What I'm doing, deep down, what I was doing was reading the audience, was knowing my audience. So for 8 years, the US Open brought me back year after year after year. I had the chance to perform live on center court with Novak Djokovic. I had an amazing encounter with Rafael Nadal, and I got asked to go to Roger Federer's charity event for 2 years, including last weekend at the Laver Cup. And by the way, they paid me $1 that first year. Sometimes you just have to get in the room. They paid me $2 the next year. No, I'm kidding. But you just sometimes have to get in the room, right? It's like, how do I push myself to get them to quote unquote buy what I'm selling? For the last, so I would perform in a lot of minor league events, smaller stadiums, smaller cities. I've performed in smaller cities and all over North America, and including parts of Europe. And you get t-shirts when you go. And sometimes they're branded, sometimes they're not. One time I showed up and there was 4 boxes of shirts, and the GM of the team, the manager of the team says, open them up, see if you like them. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they'll be great. So I opened them up, and sure enough, this was the shirt. So I said to them, I'm like, there's no way 150 people want my face on their body. And sure enough, by the end of the game, there's like 150 people in the crowd wearing these sweaty t-shirts. And I realized that you've got to show them something different, ultimately, right? To create that experience with our fans and our customers, you've got to show them something a little different. And so we mixed it up. 5 years ago, I got asked to perform in Las Vegas. I don't know how many people have ever been to entertainment capital of the world, but Las Vegas has a hockey team. I think that's the team right there. And what they did was they gave permission to their fans to act like it's Halloween and Mardi Gras and a festival every night. So they push it. I would wear these t-shirts, I'd say Vegas, and then it'd be Vegas loud. And then I'd keep taking them off. And then ultimately it would be Vegas playoff loud. So they would keep cheering with each shirt I would take off. This is a weird one. I wasn't sure if I was going to show it, but whatever, why not, right? Talk about thinking differently and being a little weird. I was on a podcast last year for a baseball team called the Savannah Bananas. And they're a really weird team. And the guy sent me a thank you. And he said, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to show you. He sent me these. And I literally was like, really? And I realized the fact that he sent them and I'm showing them to you means it worked, right? So they are a baseball team in Georgia. They push it. They decided to go with the banana as their logo. Everyone thought they were crazy. But at the end of the day, if you connect with your fans in that way that makes them come alive, you're not crazy. You're winning. You're creating something special. The last one I have is a pretty funny one in the sense of doing events that all led to events. And I performed in Singapore, and I couldn't believe I was getting a chance to perform. And what I realized when I was flying over there was we're all the same, in the sense that what do we want when we go to an event, right? We want to be with our friends. We want to be moved. We want to have fun. We want to let go. So there I am in Singapore. The organizers told me that, well, the main organizer told me that no one wanted to bring me in. They all thought it was a foolish idea. The first hit moment I had 4.5 million views on Facebook. So the only time I've ever been allowed to ask for business class worked. It was paid off right there. So there I am. There's 35,000 people. And the producer says to me, I want you to wear this t-shirt, rip open your shirt and have this on. And I was like, yeah, sure, of course. What does it say? I'm not telling you. I'm like, well, then I'm not wearing it. Like, you can't do that to me. You know what I mean? He's like, trust me. I'm like, trust you? This is my career. I don't want to be booed and, kicked out of Singapore. So he goes, I promise you, just do it. If I just do it. I'm like, okay. So I get all excited. I get fired up. I'm like, okay. So I go down in the middle of the stadium. I rip it open, and I rip it open to this. In Singapore, okay? Pretty multicultural city. It says random white guy. And he tells me after, and I was like, I can't believe you made me do that. But the crowd went crazy because for the last year, some reason, this shirt, this motto, this image became a thing in Singapore, and everyone laughed, loved it, couldn't believe I did it, but they bought into it. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, you just have to trust it. And it's hard, especially when you're putting yourself out there on that level. So for 28 years, I've been trusting it. I've been putting myself out there. I've been showing up. I don't talk a lot about, I do in my book, but about the highs and the lows and the amount of rejection I faced, and how many teams have said no to me. I lived in LA, and I was a host and a TV actor and performer and a speaker. And the amount of no's to get to that yes is crazy. But the more I went on in my career, the more I realized how to get to the yes by offering that extra experience, by elevating their experience, by bringing them joy and energy and fun. And it's brought me around the world, meeting incredible people. And I'm pretty darn sure my mom is proud I've contributed to a few teams. So thank you all so much for having me. I want to do you want to end on a video or a Q&A? We'll end on we'll do a Q&A and then the video. How's that? How do we do the Q&A?
So generally, if anybody has a question, you can use your virtual hand here.
Okay.
And just then go ahead and ask your question. Okay, while we're waiting for a question, what's the maximum number of t-shirts you wore on top of each other?
Without passing out?
Yes.
I had 25 on once.
How
I
many?
had 25 on. I don't recommend it.
Wow.
I had 14 on in the Roger Federer video, and they were light cotton like this, so I was okay.
Okay.
One note in terms of the book thing too, I wanted to share was like, I'm the last guy in the world to be able to finish a book. I had academic problems. I had focus problems, but during the pandemic, I really focused because I knew every day what I was doing. And everyone asked, I self-published it. I put all my money, my own time and resources. And ultimately what happened was I got a great team of people around me, from the designer to an editor to proofreaders to make it happen. And I'm really proud that I was able to finish it, because nobody in my life ever thought I would. One friend of mine said I'm his only friend to write a book that's never read one. So, you just got to believe in yourself. Don't be shy. I won't bite.
Okay, so we have questions already. Taras, you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for a very energized speech. It's inspiring. I just want to ask you, maybe you was given some advice in the past, maybe maybe you can give us now. So I clearly see how my energy and how my current feelings are affecting, as a CEO of a company, affecting everyone else around. And I understand that things you are doing at big events, it's like people are there to have, I mean, to feel that energy, and it's like entertaining event, right? But how can we apply your approach in a day-by-day work of some, let's say, of some startup companies that's in only starting? There are a lot of things unknown, sometimes a lot of downs and so on. So and definitely probably I more than likely I cannot entertain them as it's like a event, right? But
Get some
certain
shirts for
other,
him, you know?
yeah, maybe sometimes, sometimes that will work too, but not every time. But maybe you can give us an advice how to implement this approach in a day-by-day work under such uncertain condition as a startup.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a super big challenge to keep that energy, to keep that commitment, to keep everyone on the same page. I was asked in a podcast about a year and a half ago what my mantra was, and I just like said it right away. And I said, the cheer you give is the cheer you get. So if you're a business leader, and I always say this too, like I fly in to do a game and I'm not feeling it, but I've got to go get 18,000 people excited. So as the CEO, Taras, and as a leader, you give that energy to your team and they're going to give it back to you, right? So sometimes as hard as it is to put yourself out there and to connect with your people and your team, if like you said, you're not feeling it, the highs and lows of business and being a leader, you're going to get it back. But you've got to get out of your comfort zone and you got to get a little awkward and give it, and you'll get it back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I saw some moments in the past how it's working. So that's why this topic is really close to what to my experience, past experience. So thank you.
I also think on that note, everywhere's different, I know, but I think ultimately people want to have that fun and they want to have that spirit. Sometimes you just need to figure out ways to unlock it, and it could be challenging and you can fall flat on your face, but it's worth trying, because what's the worst thing that happens? Okay, your bit didn't work, or your challenge didn't work, or whatever you tried to do to bring your team together, it might not work, but maybe you'll learn something through it, or something else will happen as a result that you can gain valuable insight from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Ariane next.
So my question is, how many rejections did you get? And when when you weren't feeling in the mood to go and cheer people on, how did you change your state and get and cheer?
Well, that is a great question, young man. Thank you for asking, Everest. Yeah, I mean, rejection has been a huge part of my career. I have a list of all the teams that I've performed for. There wasn't enough room in the book for all the teams that said no. And I think that's the joy of getting a yes with all of us as business leaders. When you get to that yes in whatever you're going out there for, you realize that all those no's made it worthwhile, or all those planes or meetings or sacrifices to get to that yes, right? In that sense, putting yourself out there. And it's so hard sometimes to keep putting yourself out there, because I did a book signing during the pandemic, and one event I had pretty good turnout, and one event I had one person show up. So it was pretty hard to get up for the next book signing, but you've got to go, okay, well, I wrote this for a reason. I want to share my passion and stories to connect with people and to give them a little something. So I got to dig deep, and it's hard. It's hard. I think ultimately you've got to stick around the people that cheer you on. Ultimately, Everest, the people that will believe in you and say, just try it again, and it's going to work, and people will show up, and you keep putting yourself out there and you get the wins.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Joanna up next.
Yeah, I want to ask actually, what cheers you up? usually. Maybe besides your dream job.
What cheers me up?
Yeah, usually.
It's that moment that you don't see coming. It's like I could go to an event with 18,000 people. I could be a little tired or sick and you have that moment with that fan who, I get them up and I get the 8-year-old kid twirling the shirt and it just lights you up and goes, okay, I'm in now. I'm good. Right. And then it's like the talk last week at the school. I just flew back from Europe. I was exhausted. My voice was gone. And that kid asked that question. And I'll never forget that moment, right? That stuff that you set yourself up. And then this magic comes around somehow that you can never plan for, but you can put out there, if that, you know what I mean? And then it just lights you up and it keeps you going, no matter how, jet lagged or exhausted you are. I think it really, what do you do? I'll ask you that question. What do you try to do?
Actually, working with people, so the same one. When I see some changes, so I'm a coach, life coach, so they cheers me up, actually. So yeah.
And it's funny, right?
You collecting that moment. I agree with you. Totally agree. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I look around, I've got all these jerseys and like, yeah, okay, they're cool, but it's every jersey's like, oh, I remember that happened and this happened with that kid, or that 80-year-old grandmother got up and we did a funny kiss or whatever it is, right? And you're like, oh, that was so worth it. And you collect those moments and, you keep going. Pretty lucky, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The
And
next
then-
person who asks a question gets a book.
Oh, Anton, you're up.
Hi.
There you go. Oh, not you. Sorry. I'm just kidding. Anton, you got a book.
I'm really interested to ask you, what do you think about money, fun, and mission-driven companies? It looks like you're the mission-driven person. Sorry. And you said that you put all your money into the book, which is not quite wise from entrepreneur decision, right? But how do you see this transition of being mission-driven and then pushing energy outside and then getting money and etc.? I mean, did you had any problem with that, or it actually works out well?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a huge question because, when you're an entertainer, when you're providing a service, whether, like Joanna's a life coach, or maybe you guys all have, something you're selling that's just you, and you're like, what's my value? And you don't put your value where you feel it should be. And then you don't get your value, then you start to realize like you're not balancing the mission money and that sort of, and that makes you like kind of not feel great about what you're doing. So for me, I think it's like realizing my value, making sure people realize the value as well, because my goal is to make sure everyone has a great experience. And I know from there, I'll be rewarded, but I should be rewarded. I'm providing a massive value. And sometimes your ego gets in the way and says, on both sides, you don't have enough ego to say, hey, like, I'm really doing something here. This is what you should, value me at. And then the other times you're saying, not enough. Right. So I don't know if that makes sense, but just as an independent person, it's hard at times because you get asked to speak at an event and you're like, well, what am I worth? Well, you put it out there and you try to get what you're worth. And then all those things add up and you get on the airplane and you feel you're getting your value. But to answer the question in terms of, companies doing it, I think that, the most successful companies have created something that is such a mission and has so much value and purpose that the money comes as a result, right? I hope, I still, I joked once, I did an interview for a documentary series in California on 12 different people who had interesting careers. And at the end of the interview, this young producer gets a chance to ask me questions. And she says, have you made it? And I was like, yeah, you're interviewing me, aren't you? and we laughed and, and I wrote it in my book. I said, I wrote that story in my book. And I said, well, It didn't mean I was driving off in my brand new Porsche to my beautiful mansion in Malibu, but it mean I'd made it here, right? And the rest will come. Thank you, Anton. Message me and I'll send you this for real.
Thank you. Cool.
COD though, right? COD.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Roman.
Yes, hello. It was very nice to hear you, to receive your energy, your smile. I noted some these phrases. Yes, you know, you never know who watching you. There is opportunity. It's really good to understand. And my question is, it was similar like Taras asked, but I would like to add something. I had a leader, my leader in a company with similar energy. And he was charged us every meeting, a daily meeting, weekly meeting. It was like, hey, every time. But often he delivered things better than actually were. So where is the line? The line between reality and good mood in meetings, in all this situation with the team?
Well, I mean, I think that that's the ultimate thing with the concept of cheering, is that I can come here and give you all my energy, my fun, my cheer, but ultimately it has to come and hit you here for it to make an impact on you, and you take what you want from that. And I think that your leader would be sharing that and saying, hey, I'm going to give you all this. The same with me when I go to a sporting event. You know what I mean? Roman, when I go to a sporting event, you decide what you want to give back to me as well, right? But I'm going to go and I'm going to give it to you at this level, and you decide where you want to take it. And I think that your leader is doing that because everyone needs that spark, and you take that spark and you do what you want with it. And I think that's the line. The line is for you to decide, but I'm going to give it to you because everyone needs a cheer. You know what I mean? Everyone.
Yeah. He also was from America, so it's yeah.
well, America, not Canada, right?
America, not Canada. Yes.
Yeah. I'm still friends with Americans. Don't get me wrong.
Thank you.
If you have, Alex just asked if you have some other experience of some kind acting before your first stadium when I became famous. Well, I mean, I used to sell T-shirts door to door, and I had a clothing company, and I had 40 different sales reps across Canada, and we sold T-shirts and we made all these cool expressions. And then eventually I was at a game, the first game that I did in Ottawa, and I put my logo for my company on the T-shirts so that you would hire me to make you T-shirts and sweatshirts and clothes. And then the teams were like, wait a minute, we want our logo on their shirts. But that was sort of like an entrepreneurial experience for me in terms of how to leverage what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was doing, that's what I was doing kind of before. I've never had a normal job because I'm not really qualified to do anything. So, thank you, Alex.
We have 2 questions from Ariane in the chat. She says, what is the best thing you can tell yourself to keep yourself going during hard times? And then how do you best cheer on your partner or your kids or your employees?
Well, you'll have to read my book for the second answer, my friend. No, I'm kidding. The best thing to keep yourself during hard times. I mean, I think it's like, it's this and I have this thing in me. It's called like a belief. I call it the belief button now. I didn't call it that at the beginning, that I believe ultimately in my heart. I don't really have any pictures here, but like in my heart, I believe what I'm offering is important and of value because, and when you get the rejection and you're tired and the no's and things don't go well, you somehow have to get back to that, what ultimately made you decide to do it in the first place, right? Every single one of us has had this, right? And we were like, how do we get out? And it starts with this. And then for me, surrounding yourself with people that, as cliche as it is, and Roman, you'll remember this, I hope, but the people that cheer you on is like to have that community of people that cheer you on is so important. And I did an event a while ago, speaking of heartfelt, and I don't have it with me, but I did a book signing before the event, and this guy comes up to me and he gives me a note and he says, my parents couldn't be here, but we wanted you to have this. And I'd been going to that city for a while and I sort of knew them. And I'm on the road, right? It's tiring, it's hard, it's challenging, it's the highs and lows. But they give me this note, I read it in the middle of the game, alone in a locker room, and it said, sorry we couldn't be there. I just want you to know the next time you go to the cemetery, see your mom and dad, tell them how proud they should be of raising a great son. Right? And right there is that the concept of the cheer you give is the cheer you get. Clearly, I gave something in the book and what I did, and the fact that they took the time to write that letter to me, to put it in an envelope, and to ask their son to give it to me. So to answer your question, Ariane, in a full circle way, is like, we all need to quote unquote cheer, write the letter, give the thanks, appreciate our team. And then it comes back to us, you know? And we forget to do it so often as leaders, as entrepreneurs, and like call, you know, go for a walk and call 5 people and just say, hey, I'm just giving you a quick note to let you know, whatever it is, you know, have that connection so people know you care. Yes, as husbands and wives, we forget this. Yeah, I mean, of course, because we're chasing so much, and we're putting ourselves out there so much, and we're trying to do things that aren't normal. You know, the entrepreneurship and being a business person and some of this stuff, like, there's no secret to it. It's just keep, you know, that to me, that's the secret. And I think we all ultimately find our own secrets of what works for us by taking the best of what works for others, right? You know, and that's why we're doing, you know, events like this, which I applaud you for doing.
Nice.
Any other questions? Don't be shy.
Oh, Anton again, go.
Cameron, sorry, like what you're saying is basically very, very truth, but somehow people, like, we are getting so busy in achieving business goals, or I don't know, doing some hustle, etc. I mean, how to balance this out? Because well, especially now, you know, with all the negative news or like positive on the war side. I mean, maybe you mentioned during your life what keeps people from doing this cheer to other people.
Mm-hmm. What does keep people from doing it?
Yeah.
I think we're all afraid, like back to when we were in high school, when we didn't want to look stupid. We didn't want to be the kid who made a mistake, who put themselves out there and like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that, Anton. And then you realize you do it and everyone's like, oh, that was awesome, you know, because the crowd around you, the people around you, when you put yourself out there, like I did that first night, like I did in high school when I, you know, eventually went back and cheered on the team, people want it. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes you might look a little silly, but are you really looking silly when when someone wrote that note, that personal note to me, and was vulnerable and was real? I mean, how do you think that made me feel? That getting on that plane, that driving 2 hours and giving my energy for 3 hours, it was worth everything. And then you take that energy, or I try to, and try to balance that with the rest of my life. And it's hard because you're not going to get the same high, right? Right? You're never going to get the same high of, you know, whatever you're doing in your business of, you know, so to balance that, I think is the more you can balance it, I think the more it clears your head for what all the other things you're doing. You know, I used to live in Los Angeles, and in the middle of the day, there'd be no one hiking, and I would go for a hike because my schedule permitted it. And I'd come back and feel so alive because I was letting go of all the BS and just going, okay, getting centered again. So, I mean, we all know this. It's just a matter of, do we practice it, right? I think that's the ultimate challenge. And I just came back from a 10-day road trip. And then before that, 20 days. And it's like, you got to have self-care in between. Otherwise your voice starts sounding like this.
So don't be afraid, right?
Don't be afraid. I mean, what have you got to lose? I'm actually asked, like, I'm saying that rhetorically, but also like, Anton, what have you got to lose, right?
I think we all have some kind of self-image which we kind of afraid to lose.
Yeah. I was doing Zoom talks during the pandemic, and with companies would hire me, and the leader would be like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this funny dance contest. You think they'll like it? He goes, no, but you should do it anyhow. Right? So I did it. And a guy from Alberta, like, you know, a province in Canada, Mike, I remember, I said, Mike, will you get up on your chair and dance in your living room? Because we were all like, wherever. And I'll send you a t-shirt from your favorite team. And he's like, no. And then I was like, I think you will. And he gets up and he does it. And guess what everyone did, Anton? Everyone loved it. It was stupid. It was silly, but he did it. And it was awesome. And so we think like, oh, people are going to laugh at me. No, for the most part, they're going to laugh at you while they're also going, I wish I could do that with you. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Anton.
Ariane wants to share a story with us.
I was gonna share this actually before Cameron started speaking, but it's actually the story of how Cameron and I met and how we've become such good friends. So I had a startup in 2007, 2008, 2009, and I was a solo female founder. And, you know, it was hard. I was living in New York City. I'd raised $5 million for a startup. I was coming across some hard times. I had hired the wrong people. We hadn't figured out our product market fit. And I remember getting an email random from this guy called Cameron, and he's got a funny email address. And he said, you know, we have a common friend from Canada who mentioned you. And I just want to let you know, like, I've looked at your website. I looked at what you do. And I want to acknowledge you, and I want to tell you how great it is and how wonderful your idea is. And I'm here for you if you ever need me. And I'm cheering you on. And this is amazing. And you're a female founder and you're in New York, and keep going. I mean, it's like, who sends these kind of emails? Like, really, who sends these kind of emails? And it was at a moment in time, guys, where I was pretty low. I was single. I just felt alone, as I know a lot of you do. It's pretty hard being alone as a founder out there. And, you know, things looked really good on the website, and things looked really good because I was in the press, but things were not good on the inside. There was a lot of just, you know, questions and doubt and insecurity and imposter syndrome. And I get this random email from a guy called Cameron in Canada who cheered me on. And I can tell you, because he did it with me, I do it with other people now. So there really is a snowball effect to it. And I do it in simple ways. I see people succeeding on LinkedIn, and I will comment, and I'll say, you know what, that's great. You raised this fund. Well done. You got promoted. Not just like scroll, make you feel bad about yourself, but like cheer them on. And there's, you know, we talk a lot about cheering on our own teams, but I promise you, every single one of the people on this call, we also need cheers. Like, I need cheers for what I'm going through right now. You know, my son has a broken collarbone. It's really hard. It's hard for us. It's hard for him. And I need to be cheered on that it's going to be okay, and that things are going to work out and he's going to recover, right? It's a small personal thing going on for us. But we don't know, you know, we know the obvious things that people in Ukraine are going through, but everyone has a personal story. And I think that's one of the things that Cameron is so good at, which is, you know, you see people as human beings. And, you know, I think it was Plato, he said, you know, be gentle, for everyone is fighting a hard battle. But you can be gentle. And I think if Cameron said it, he would be cheer people on, because everyone is fighting a hard battle, just to kind of put you in the same leagues as Plato, my lovely friend. But that's just what I wanted to share. So this guy really is the real deal. It's why I wanted to bring him on today, which is, you know, I've run ultra marathons in the Alps, and Cameron is my very first call, because I know it's going to be flipping hard, and I know it's going to be difficult, and I need to know that, you know, there is support. And I think as founders and entrepreneurs, we go into, I'm alone. No one else has ever felt this bad. No one else has ever eaten this much ice cream on the couch. No one else has ever spent this much time, you know, in the house. And it's not true. It's not true. We all are in the same place. We're all in the same boat. And I'm incredibly lucky to have a guy like Cameron, but we can be that for each other. You know, Cameron, believe me, you email Cameron, you'll hear back from him with some sort of positivity. So
Oh,
bless
you're
you,
not giving my email out, are you?
thank you. I could probably get it.
Please give it out right now. Give it out in the chat. But
okay, good idea.
Can I add to that story? Thank you very much for saying that. And, you know, the magic of full circles. You know, Ariane was with me the first night of the US Open. We've become dear friends. We've met up around the world, and, you know, we don't always chat, but when we do, there's a powerful connection there. And it's always there. So, but to Anton, to your question earlier. So Ariane's running this insane marathon in the middle of the Alps. I'm flying back from somewhere. I'm at an airport lounge where there's a group text with 50 people. I don't think I know anyone on it, maybe one person. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, am I going to be me, or am I going to just not be me and waste this opportunity? So I take a crazy picture in an airport lounge. I send it to her and said, I'm cheering for you from the San Francisco lounge. Where are you cheering Ariane from? So next thing I know, I don't know, remember there was like 30, 40 pictures, Ariane, of all of your, I'm going to get emotional, all of your friends around the world, wherever they were, their kids, they were in New York, they were all around, and they all put in their pictures. And I imagine if I hadn't done that. I'm the guy who normally does it. I had self-doubt, Anton. I was like, I mean, they don't know me. And the power of that cheer, you know, anyhow, I think we know what happens when that happens.
I mean, it made a huge difference, because I by that time I had run 9 hours, right? It was an ultra marathon trails in the Swiss Alps. And I finished in 9.5 hours. And the last hour and a half was some of the most painful stuff. So, you know, just being able to sort of somewhat scroll and see some love and cheer, I could very well have not created a WhatsApp group for myself, right? I could very well have been.
That's the first step. The first step is you ask for the cheer.
Yeah. It's really asking. And instead of, you know, I had to put myself out there. I did it again this year. And yeah, it's an amazing thing when you step out of that comfort zone and you let people in and you let people help you.
I just added my email address, and so yeah. Do you want to end on with that last video, Zana? Or are there any more questions?
Yeah, we can do that.
Before the video, I want to say something.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions, or? Anton, I think, yeah, email me and I'll send you a book. So I've been performing for 24 years at this point. I'm going to end this with a video. And I've been performing for 24 years. I have all these great moments with fans, famous athletes, mascots, like everything in between. And it was always all these great moments. And then one day I go to an event in Vancouver. There's 30,000 people. It's a big stadium. It's a rugby event. It's the end of an 8-hour day. I am exhausted. I've got nothing else to give, but I have one big hit planned, a big moment to get the whole stadium clapping and cheering. And I'm like, all right, you know, we've all been there, right? I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. And then you do it. You're like, I'm so glad I did it. So as we end this, I want to say thank you for your cheers and your energy. I sent you an email. If you want to say hi, if you're ever in British Columbia, say hi. Or if you're ever in Vegas, I do a lot of work there. But thank you so much for allowing me to share some stories and to be able to spread some cheer with all of you. And I wish you continued success at everything you're doing. So if we can show that video and end it on the, I'll tell you where to end it.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. 1 second.
I think one thing that I've, as we're just getting this set up, is just coming back from London and then going to Montreal and then going to all these cities, is like, we all ultimately, as business leaders, as entrepreneurs, as creatives, we want the same thing. And I think it's important to realize that, like Ariane said, to ask for the cheer and then to give it. All right, here it is. So
You have to bear the commercial.
Lerne jetzt den
skip out. Here we go. All right, you can end it there.
That's
So
awesome.
that's Malcolm. That was not planned. I'm not smart enough. At the time, he was an 18-year-old. Well, he was 18 at the time. He has Down syndrome, and he just wanted to be part of it. And for 28 years, it's never been about me. It's about igniting that spark in other people. And that little bugger got hired the next year, but I didn't. And we talk probably every week or two. We talk, and he sends me videos, and we met up once, and he said, if a boy with Down syndrome can get up and dance, so can you. So thank you all very much for a great day.
Cameron, thank you very much. That was
Thank you
awesome
so
and
much.
amazing.
Thank you all.
I hope we cheered you up even a bit.
Now what do we do?
Now we say goodbye and good
okay.
night, or good morning for you, as the case may
Bye.
be.
Bye. Thank you.
I hope to see you
Have a
later.
great
Bye-bye.
day.
Anton,
Thank
send me your
you.
info.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.